This one's defence strategies.
Right.
Okay. And why is it not moving? There we go. Okay. So I always show you this. Graphic first, and the stuff that's underlined at the bottom there. That's what we're looking at today. So last week, Kane, I remember this clearly. You sort of asked a message about after the tackle, didn't you? About the wrestle and whatnot. Well, we're definitely going to get into that a little bit today, and the marker system, the defensive system, and connectivity, which is how they stay together in the defensive line. So this is all about strategy. So you can talk all the X's and O's that you want, but otherwise there's a big game management thing there as well. Well, you got to look at the whole thing, and I always say use this term, control the temperature of the game. So I have non-negotiables with my team. So I never want them to be penalised for ball stealing, which is maybe wishful thinking, but I never ever coach my team to ball steal. Players do, but they knew that, and they know if they do that. I always talk in the past tense because I'm having a year out, basically. Right. So I talk in the past tense. But when teams, for me, if they get penalised for ball stealing, it's clear they know they're looking at either not playing the week after, or they're going to get absolutely flogged in training or something like that. So I actively coach not to do that. Referees in particular are very good, particularly in the community game, at giving away penalties when one defensive team is jamming the opposition in their own 20.
Right.
So when let's say the blue team are coming out from their own 20 and the red team are defending, if they're really compressed and jam it in and fly in quick, referees are very good at just panicking and giving a penalty.
Almost like a penalty, right?
Yeah. So quite often I coach my teams in attack to fight really hard to play the ball super quick in that scenario, but also for my players to scream at the ref, they're offside, they're offside, they're offside.
Yeah.
It is amazing. Next time you watch a game of rugby league in the park, watch how often that happens.
Amateur game, I might have a look. I'll have a look for that.
Right. Now, the other thing is, some of the penalties are because people get dead excited and jump too quickly. Right. So I used to put a big thing into my team that we never jump too quickly. I'd rather you be 90% intensity and 10% smart than 100% just off your nuts and wanting to kill someone. So that was a big way. Giving away penalty on tackles 4, 5, and 6.
The old saying, coach killer, that, isn't it? It really is. You're giving yourself so much work to do defensively.
That's right. So giving away penalty on tackles 4, 5, or 6 is suicide. So if you want to, again, you'll see in the NRL sometimes they'll give away penalties. They overthink it a bit sometimes. They give away penalties in their own 10 and stuff like that, or 6 agains or whatever. But most other teams coach at a certain level and play at a certain level, and giving away penalty on tackles 4, 5, and 6 is suicidal.
Really.
Letting them score with a scoot on your try line.
Well, that's what I've been slating my English team.
The ball is always a threat. Is always the threat. So if you let them scoot and score on their own try line, then you're switched off. This is very rare, but you should never be pushed off a scrum. And you'd be amazed how often this happens. I would argue that East team, that Brisbane Tigers team we were just looking at, some of them failed to muscle up.
Yeah.
And again, that's a mentality. Now, I always coach compressed up and out defence. So there's basically 2 types of defence, up and in. Up and in tends to be a bit more spread in the spacings. Up and out tends to be compressed. You can sort of go somewhere in the middle, but I think the clarity is whether you have up and out, up and in. And the other thing is, I know some coaches, and I've done this in the past, occasionally I've allowed my last 3 players to do up and in on near our own goal line if there's a reason, a specific opponent or whatever. But ultimately, that my defences are all compressed and up and out. The hit being the most important thing, which is why I did a webinar all about that last week when we were talking about defence, because it really is to me the biggest part of strategy. Like I can't underestimate how much tackle technique is part of my strategy as a defensive coach. Like getting the split right, so getting if there's a play the ball in the middle of the field, you have 5 on the left, 5 on the right. The best way of doing this, the quickest way of coaching this, is basically divide the field up into 10. And if the play the ball is a bit away from the centre, so maybe 10 metres or 8 metres, one either side, it becomes 4 and 6. If it's near the scrum line, it can be 3 and 7. Anything less, it can be 2. And then when you get near the scrum line, always tell your marker to look negative to make up the extra number, rather than putting too many men over there. So allow your marker, one of your markers, to be the person that goes to the short side regardless. So again, my defensive strategy, hold and fold marker. If we were in the opposition 20, it wasn't hold and fold marker. The first one had to run out like a lunatic. But from the scrum line out, we always used to have negative marker, which meant the fold would go in the direction of the short side, regardless of what the opposition did. So we did that, and then we just adjusted if it went the other way, basically. So instead of putting extra bodies on that side, I used to just get my marker to be the extra body where they needed to be. Knowledgeable assist is the effort too. So that second or third person who comes in. So if I tackle you, Kane, James would come in and find somewhere that you can get in and knowledgeably help to control that player. I always coach defending on the inside shoulders of the opposite number. So again, we spoke about that last week, about controlling attackers with your defence, that if you get on the inside shoulder, it cuts a whole load of options off for the attackers. So I always told my players inside shoulder. And compression-wise, we were a minimum of 2 in, which in simple terms means the wing on the right would be inside the opposition's left centre as a minimum, not a maximum, a minimum. Because I coach my teams that they could always slide regardless of, and the key thing is getting the split right. It's about what you coach them. And like, if you get the split right and focus really hard on that, then your defensive system will sort of take care of everything, and hold and fold marker that ties in with the A defender. So in terms of compression, I guess players and coaches in particular get scared about compression sometimes, because the obvious thing is the more compressed you are, well, look at all this space you've left.
They can go around you.
Yeah. But you've also got to take into account what you see of the opposition before you play them. I mean, honestly, the Cronulla look like they're going to shift the ball into that space.
No, they're bunched.
So you take those things into consideration. And again, even in the community game, you can probably tell if the opposition do 3 in and before they do something. So on the first 3 tackles, you can really jam it in. And I guess sometimes we need justification from someone about compression. We need validation when we don't be scared to go compress, because if there's one thing, if they go through that line, then you've got some poor tacklers. So that you're cutting off one option. You're putting the emphasis on the opposition to move the ball. And in theory, you are laying a trap for them there. So you're telling them where they would attack. Now, it doesn't stay this compressed all the time. I would argue this is actually a bit too much compressed now, and I'd say the split's probably off a bit. I would like to see the line about here.
There's a lot of space out here now.
All right, so I reckon they've got that a bit wrong, but I'd say this is perfect here in terms of they're clearly still about 2 in. So I'd say the 2 in over there. This one is more 1 in, but obviously they're thinking numbers a little bit too. So that just gives you an example of how a team might move down the field with a compressed defence. This YouTube, because you couldn't get sound earlier, you're not going to get sound off this. So I'll have to talk you through it. Where's it gone? There. So in terms of coaching, you see the YouTube, yeah?
Yeah.
So let me get the ad out of the way. So you'll find all these on the YouTube channel anyway. A simple way to coach ruck control. So if you could get the sound, which is what I was hoping, I don't know how I fix that, but these two cones here signify an imaginary
try line.
Try line. Yeah. So what I coach my players is pretend there's always a try line underneath them.
Yeah.
And they are coached to keep them away from the try line at all times. So I use the term away, away, away. So players, it's actually quite easy to say when you're knackered in a game, away, 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 right? So this fella here in blue, Punga, is going to try and put the ball down there. These two are going to try and stop him.
Right.
When I finish yapping. So I've stopped it there and I'm talking through. Now, obviously, it isn't a real try line. So that's probably why he didn't dive down. But ultimately, I want my players now to stop blue putting the ball down there. So that would be the equivalent of elbows and knees if he did that, right? Yeah. So I'm talking about the line. I think I moved them all over now. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay, so if you imagine the man in blue is going to try, if he lands down now over that line, he's elbows and knees basically, right? I teach for them not to allow that player down. And I'm talking to Connor here about a knowledgeable assist as well to help that process. So this is 3 men in a tackle basically. So with compression, you're going to get more bodies in the tackle naturally. So it's important to coach your players about what they actually do. And I always break it down that the attacker is to get you to get the attacker. That's the utopia. That's the goal.
On the back. Yeah,
on his back, ball that way, ball furthest away from your try line. So these words underneath will help you.
Takes more time to get up and play the ball, and obviously
harder to play the ball.
Yeah.
Does that happen all the time? No, it doesn't. But the collision, right, is the first part, and then everything else after that is a battle. Now, 80% of the rucks are a 50-50 battle where you've got to try and do something with it. Yeah. So I spend an awful lot of time coaching in the 50-50 area. That's the position blue wants to be in. So we want him to be in the opposite position, which is on the back. So the call is basically they go in, they do a tackle, and they call away, which means they're getting him away from the try line. Now, that by its very nature means every player needs to have all their forces moving in the same way. So you might think I'm crazy saying that, but you'd be amazed how often this player here would push against this player. He's pushing that way, he's pushing that way, and they're actually pushing against each other. Yeah. So again, you've got to spend time with your players, teaching them.
You do a push pull, don't you? You do a push pull with it.
So if Tynan here ends up on this side, he pulls.
He's pulling. Yeah, and the communication.
Rather than trying to push, you'd be amazed. I'm telling you now, those East players, people were on this side pushing that way. Right? Even though their try line they're defending's over here, they're pushing them towards their own try line. The other thing that I often
communication, I suppose.
Yeah. The other thing I do is encourage the player to make a second tackle when he's in there.
Right.
So to keep his arms in and do another tackle again. So dip and do another tackle. So Tynan here could probably do doing another tackle in. So he keeps his hands on, he just backs away a tiny bit and goes in again. Rather, because there's no rules in the game that say when you've made a tackle, that's it. You can't. So I just get my player to detach a little bit and do another one. So it's tackle and in again, right?
Yeah. And
the whole goal is keeping them away from putting the imaginary ball on the imaginary try line, right? So rucks are complicated things. There's a whole industry in wrestling around it and blah, blah, blah. I've tried to make it as simple as possible. Like last week where I was making the terminology simple, it's about keeping them away from that imaginary try line. That's what we talk about all the time. So I give my players stats after the game about how many of these they did. And again, it always works out that the more they did, the more chance they've got of winning the game. It's that important. So I think we're going to see a full speed one now. So they're just putting all effort into stopping him score.
Good effort then at the end with that.
Yeah.
Third defender who stood up now. He put an effort in there with his shoulder.
That's right. So again, looking back at that East thing, right? I have no doubt they've been coached some good stuff. What I honestly believe, though, is they haven't been coached it enough. So it's not
concentrated enough on it.
Yeah, it's not, the players aren't thinking this is what I've got to do. My players would know that if they didn't do those certain things in those rucks, their video review the day after would be tougher than any game of rugby league they ever played, because I'd give it them. Right? Yeah. And then, where's my screen now? Have you got the PowerPoint there? Yeah?
Yeah, we've got ruck controls flashed up.
Yeah. And then the other stuff, so I'll do another share. So this is the website now. Where's it gone? You got my website? You got the website?
Yeah.
It's on your coaching website.
Yeah. We did the bit about the hit last week. After the hit, ruck control. Let's have a look at this video. So this is a bit more of it in action. Can you see a full screen video?
Yes. Yeah.
No sound?
No, there's no sound at all.
So
they're slowing down how quickly he's getting to the floor, the attacking player. Slow that down. And again.
Mm-hmm.
Really slowed it down effectively then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're all thinking away. See that one? That's a great one, really, because they had no
effort as well there,
look at it. So he's gone through, and then they've still pushed him back the other way.
Yeah.
And have you noticed how key tackle technique is in all this as well?
Yeah. This is Australia and New Zealand, of course, as well. Yeah, slowed him down.
You still see the website?
Yeah.
See a full screen video?
Yeah.
Okay. There's the marker system and ABC. So first marker hold, second marker fold, and in the direction of the ball. So fold means just literally just step out and tie in your raise. And the A, B, and C defenders are tight and up quick to recreate a defensive wall. So I put the pressure on my last one in to be the first one out.
Right.
And to get up at A defender. So instead of getting my markers to chase, I get my A's to chase and rush out. Okay. Again, the thing with this Poland side is I had a short time with them, so they're not actually perfect with it, but it can show you how much you can achieve in a short time with the right sort of setup.
This was
the line speed was there as well from them.
Line speed, but have you noticed the markers didn't do anything crazy?
Yeah.
This fella here was a bit behind the line. I should take this moment to acknowledge him. He passed away on Monday. 36 years old. Yeah, it's awful. His family are in bits, just out of the blue. But again, you can see how he did that sort of knowledgeable assist. Now, this is a really good clip because you can see the effort too in there, but we're looking at the ABC and the marker. Now, I pulled out this clip because this is how well and receptive these players were to each other. They just pick things up really quickly. You can almost see this marker's coming out a bit too far already. So watch what the A defender does. He goes straight in between them to recreate the wall. And
there's communication there, I suppose. Isn't there?
He told him to get out. He said, "You've gone too far, go." Look at that. Recreate the wall.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, it's good line speed, the pressure, the attack.
Yeah. So it really does. This is a brilliant ABC, and it's just an old video, so it's not quite as good quality. But these were so good at line speed. Look at that.
Yeah, the speed and the spacing as well.
Yeah. Same here too. Just recreating the line. So that's the marker and the ABC. And then there's the whole thing about sliding. Now, if you compress, you're going to have to slide. And that means that you're not worried about leaving a bit of space and then sliding yourself into it. Basic rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Basic rule of thumb, if you've got a lot of big players, it's probably not that, probably spread your defence a bit more because they don't like moving laterally a lot. But I'm telling you now, the toughest defence I ever coached against was Palm Beach Currumbin when I was the Hippie High coach, and getting past their slide was so tough because they were small, but fit as butcher's dogs and mobile. They could just slide all day, and they stayed as a unit. So it was one of the games I'm thinking in particular was a low-scoring game. We won 8-6, and we won just because one person on the Palm Beach side didn't turn up for his assignment at one pop moment. On the short side, he just had a little snooze, and my centre found it.
Side move.
So that was it. Your pictures are in the way of what I saw, so I just have to move you down. Stay as a line, stay inside the ball. Big thing. Defend on the hips, defend on the inside shoulder, keep hips square as long as possible. That's a really important thing too, because if you turn your hips in, it's harder to get change back out. Yeah. So again, I mean, this is a team that was only together a short time, but they pick things up really quick. So, for example, if they didn't do it, I could chip them about it. So look how they've just focused on keeping a line, sliding, keeping a line. Keeping a line. Yes, of course, somebody comes out a little bit to make a tackle. Look by the problems caused by somebody jumping out of tackle or turning hips in. This is Super League.
Yeah. Absolute.
So it's just silly. Got out the line. Watch this. I would argue that if the wing was here and sliding with the team, totally comfortable. Watch this.
Yeah, but
jammed in.
And that could have been still solvable if the centre communicated too.
That's right.
Like if he says stay out, ball me, you could probably solve that issue.
And you can see the warning sign. The thing with this kind of defence, some people just never get it because they don't understand you can turn your head without turning your hips. You'd be amazed how often that... Some people tend to be whole body. They do things in whole body movements.
Yeah.
So if they see a girl in the street or they turn the whole body and look at them instead of turning their head and going, oh.
Or just use your eyes, right? Use your eyes.
That's right. So I was massive on hip square and whatnot. And